I have a little audio issue back here. Welcome to our webinar today. We're going to get
to learn what we've done and to start this new chapter of Running USA. We've got a new board. They're very excited, very engaged. They bring some incredible expertise from all facets of the running industry. We'll have an opportunity to bring in some new staff members over the next couple of months. We've got a great team working on the conference. We've got a great team working on communications. Yeah, there's just so much potential, and it's really exciting to be a part of it.
Yeah, well, we're excited to have you here. And for those that are tuning in today, we're going to take questions and answers a little bit later. We do have a list of questions and answers that have already come in as Leah has been promoting this over the past few weeks. So we're going to dive into those. But if you do have additional ones as we go through, you can just pop it in here to the Q&A. And if we get a chance, we will answer those. Again, this is being recorded for those that jumped on a little bit late. But please feel free to jump in your questions and answers. So Jay, we did talk about the board, and I want to let everybody know here today, this is Running USA 2.0, we like to call it. There's going to be a whole overhaul and things as we look at where the industry is going. And we're going to talk about that through this, the state of the industry, how it's growing, how things are aging out, how we're tackling and working with the younger generation. But I'm going to tap on the board for a moment because, as you said, this is a whole new board. This is the most diverse board we have ever had. And we're looking to grow and expand upon that. But I also want to let you know that we were very mindful in picking this board. Last year, we had surveyed members and asked them, what are you interested in? So when we went to go into the board this year, we took a look at it. Sustainability. So we brought Tina Muir on. Talked about insurance. We brought Mike Eisner on. Talked about finance and how you grow your business. We brought Matt Stone on. Volunteerism. We brought Donna Finney on from New York Roadrunners. Not to mention, we have the expertise of Mike Nishi from CEM. My background's digital marketing and overall international marketing for bringing large events. And then Megan Naha is with finance as well. So a very robust. Brandon Hugh is also on the board that has a depth background in the running industry from the event side. But we want to hear from all of you. And we're really looking to grow and expand our leadership around the vision. So I implore all of you, if you're interested on joining the board, please do. And maybe in the past you hadn't thought, this might not be for me, or maybe there was some resistance there, but we are looking for new board members. We're going to be soliciting that. Again, we only want to grow and expand on the diversity. So if you are watching and thinking, how can I get involved in Running USA? How can I get involved in the running industry overall? Reach out to me, reach out to Jay. Jay's got a new email address, jay@runningusa.org. And then as well, you can reach me, Kathleen at philadelphiamarathon.com. So with that, let's dive in a little bit on some of the changes that we're looking to do from membership. Clearly, you've grown membership at Atlanta Track Club to over 39,000. This was something that we had talked about from generational. What do we think we're going to do different here moving forward to tap new members, small and large?
Well, with our current membership base, I want to make sure that our membership proposition is exactly what our members need. So I want to spend the next couple of months talking to the members that we have, understanding how they utilize their Running USA membership, what they get out of it, what they'd like to give out of it, but even as importantly, how they can give back to our other members. We have some really great expertise as I look at this list of members that we have that are doing amazing things in the running space, changing with the times, revolutionizing the technology, putting on great events. So how can they be part of that value proposition that's a member? I think that one of the biggest things that we offer is that idea sharing, that ability to talk about best practices, talk about what's working, talk about what's not working. So I really want to understand from the current people we have, what keeps them here and what would keep them here longer. Other than that, I think that we're seeing new categories that we can tap into here in the running space. One of them for me is individuals. There are hundreds of thousands of people each year that participate in road races, but there's not really an affinity group for those people. So how do we create a relationship with the running community that we serve, help them understand who we are as Running USA, but also as event producers, as vendors that they see at events, as medal companies, as t-shirt companies, the people that they interact with that they don't know about every day. How do we create that relationship so we're seeing more of the people that we serve on a day-to-day basis? The other piece is run clubs. We're seeing so many run clubs and run groups join up and form in major cities and small communities. And there's some real infrastructure needs for them too. So reaching out to those smaller, more grassroots groups, I think is a real opportunity. And the other opportunity, I saw this in the questions, and I'm glad somebody asked it, is the non-running endemic. There are so many different organizations, tourism groups, hotels, rental car services, grocery stores, that work with runners on a day-to-day basis, because runners are coming to their community for races, or they're looking to bring races to their community. How do we start engaging with people who are on the ancillary side of the running industry and bring them in so they can meet the people who are putting on events and the people who are coming to events across the country?
No, that's a great way to talk about what we're doing. And these are some of the things that people can start to see not only at this year's conference, but as we go into 25 and 26, really is that vendor engagement, the partner engagement, and how we grow and expand the sport from being large to medium scale to really go all the way down to that run club, to the entry point of an individual wanting to participate. So what are some things that we're looking at for conference this year?
We're really excited to be in Orlando this year, starting on February 1st, January 31st, February 1st at Coronado Springs at Walt Disney World. We've been there before, had a great conference there a couple of years back. This year, of course, we're there to align with the U.S. Olympic Marathon Trials, which are Sunday, February 3rd in Orlando. Michael Clemens, who many of you know have worked with at events across the country, is leading up the charge for us on conference, doing a great job of pulling together some speakers. I'm really excited to listen to a session about emergency planning and event cancellation. That's been a hot topic in our sport lately. Our friends at Twin Cities Marathon are going to tell us exactly, firsthand what went down there just last month. So they're willing to walk us through that process and how that worked and what happens when any of us are in that space. So I'm excited about that. We're going to hear from Dave McGilvery on growing your own event company. We've got some breakout sessions that are coming together really well. And we've got some programming around the trials. We're going to have some elite athletes from the trials sit down and talk to us about how you can utilize elite athletes at your events to connect not just with your fast and your competitive runners, but also with your entire field. So that's coming together really well. I'm excited for the programming, and we'll have lots more to share in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we're excited. Some things aren't going to be able to change because obviously, we've just gone through the change this year. But I think when we look forward, Jay's a great visionary of saying, where do we want to be not only in 2024 with trials, but then what do we do in 25? What do we do in 26? And we're making an aggressive attack now, even strategically, as you try to look at staffing, what are some of those things that we're going to do? And we know digital, we know social media, and having an emphasis in that spot. I'm going to talk a little bit about how that area and influencers can work with organizations and running groups to maybe help enhance what they're doing and how we're looking to utilize them for Running USA.
Yeah, I think on the Running USA side, I think that there's a real value proposition there for our membership. So, if you want to utilize our social media channels as an event organizer, how do we make sure not only are we putting your event out there, but we're doing it in a way that's in your organization's brand voice and talking to the people you want to talk to. So not just putting up, hey, this race is happening, here's where you register, or hey, here's the latest technology, here's how you can see it. Really creating content around that. So I envision Running USA as being a content creator for its members. We've got people here that can do that. And would love to have those creative conversations. I think around digital media and influencers, it's helping race organizers understand how to utilize those tools, but also what the cost behind that is. I think a lot of people don't get into it because they don't know what's it going to cost to bring in an influencer? How does that working relationship work? So we're seeing more and more of that kind of marketing. So bringing those people into conferences and small sessions and having an understanding of not only how they have engaged with events in the past, but how events can engage with them and how it can be mutually beneficial for both. Because I think when it comes to especially influencers, it needs to be something that speaks to the influencer's audience and speaks to your audience.
Yeah, and I'm excited for that because it's a different way of looking at it. Again, when we talk about Running USA, some people have what they've thought of the past, and we're really looking into the future and trying to adopt some new technologies, some new methodologies to try to tap in to this younger demographic all the way to the demographic that's aging out. So if you are following along here, this conference this year is going to be something you don't want to miss, but certainly as we go into next year or 2025 and 26, that is going to be completely overhauled, redone, because I know as we were talking, we really want to figure out a way to connect people from individuals and give them a pipeline into the industry. But we also want to support small events to large events, not only financially, but as you were even saying, some of the best practices. Yeah. And this is a place that we really want everyone to go for those best practices.
And I would ask anybody who's coming to conference or anybody on the call who's not coming to conference to come to conference, but come in with a real critical eye, come in ready to offer feedback. we want to use this year to understand what's going really well, what's really working, what our attendees and members are benefiting from, but also what's missing. Where can we help you out? What kind of sessions would you like to see? We're gonna get right into that feedback on February 4th this year and already start planning the 2025 conference. So as you come in, don't be afraid to share your feedback with us during, before, after the conference to tell us what would make it better for you in 2025.
Yeah, and we're going to have board members there. I think for the first time, we'll have all the board members. Everybody will get a chance to meet them. Our scholarship recipients, again, if you're tuning in, we have an opportunity to bring people who are not able to attend conference or are less fortunate, or they're just looking to get in. We really want to be that growth organization where we can bring people in through a scholarship program, have them grow throughout, but you're going to get to know who those scholarship recipients are. If there's somebody that you think is worthy of that, please take a look at the website. We've been sending out newsletters for people to submit names on there, but also get to know the board members, because as Jay said, we want to get to know who you are, and whether that's a member, a vendor, a partner. We are looking to expand our partnership reach. We want to really provide that value back to everyone and finding those resources. So if you see us, say something, because we definitely want to hear from you. So Jay, let's take a look at some of the questions that we have so far.
All right, I'm going to open my Excel doc here. And the first question is I was not surprised by this question, but I'm glad to see it on here. The question is, very little attention is paid to the work-life balance of industry professionals. How will the organization address that? I think we are looking for new topics to cover. There are a lot of topics that we have to cover every year because every year they evolve, and we have to address how they've evolved. But this is one that I have not seen this organization or any other industry organization cover. And it's more important as we add more events, our events get more participants and get longer, as we wear multiple hats, because no one does just one thing anymore in any event organization. I think it's really important for leadership of small and large organizations to understand how to balance this out with their staff, whether they have an HR team or not. So this is a great idea for a future conference conversation or a peer group within the organization. One thing that Kathleen and I have talked about is getting together the experts on particular topics within Running USA and providing access to those experts for all organizations to brainstorm and to come up with ideas on I've said many times, best practices, but really being able to around the clock 365 days a year say, hey, listen, I want to talk more about the HR side of running. I'm gonna schedule a call with the HR peer group at Running USA. So I think this is a great one of many topics that we should be addressing, but I love the idea. So thank you for putting that out there.
And I think that when you do look at it, we look at conference as it's just a segue. It is something that we set up at the beginning of the year, but we put content out 365 days a year that we want to make sure that that's resonating as you move through. We also have advisory committees as well. So if you are looking to maybe get involved, but you don't know how, you don't want to join the board, you kind of want to just dab your toe, all of our boards have committees. You can definitely get involved, reach out to us, and we can assign you a committee to join, but we'll also have them around conference too. So it's a good question.
I love the way you framed that conference is the beginning of the conversation. It's on us as a board and a staff to make sure that we follow through on that. So we're going to start a very robust conversation at conference on February 3rd, but we need to have follow-ups throughout the year where we're checking back in on those topics, seeing how our members have done, seeing what's changed since we talked about it, 2, 3, 4 months ago. So I think ensuring that it's the beginning of a conversation and that conversation continues and builds and crescendos before the next conference is really important for us as a staff and a board going forward.
Yeah, and then looking for those little micro accelerator series that we can do throughout the US, whether it's on the West Coast, Midwest, but also making those accessible to different regions. So I think we'll expand a lot of our educational programming and efforts.
We got a lot of questions about how we're going to handle sponsorships here at Running USA, and that's something Kathleen and I have talked a lot about. It's no secret that a lot of our revenue is driven from conference, and that's not likely going to change, but there is so much more we can do, and there are so many assets we have that sponsors would love to put their name on. So I think the first step is for us to come up with a true sponsor deck and asset list and assign some costs to those sponsorships. I think bringing in a sponsorship person on staff that can understand the sales space, understands the running space, but also has the experience of going out into the non-running space is really important. So sponsorship is certainly important for us going forward, not just at conference, but in what we do year round.
Yeah, and I think we're looking to expand that. So some of the partners that you've seen in the past, you might not see, and some we're really looking to, again, we're broadening this out. How can it benefit from club members to individuals, small events of a 5K, nonprofit to those that are for profit, that are much larger to the 40 and 50,000. We want to be something for everyone. And we think we have the means with some of the strategic partners that we're talking to right now.
Another question that we got kind of dovetails back to something I was talking about earlier. The question is, to enhance the annual conference, has Running USA considered creating a section for destinations to exhibit, meet with race organizers? I've been to conferences in the past where there have been sessions on how to interact with your community, how to interact with your tourism board, how to interact with your sports council if you have it. But those organizations have not largely been in the room outside of the presenter role. I think going back to what I talked about, bringing in non-running endemic organizations that do benefit or work with the running industry is really important to grow a conference. And I think tourism boards, sports councils, local community advocates are a big part of that. We want to see more races in more towns and more cities. So if cities are willing to come out and try to enhance or bring in race organizers to their town, we want to have them there. So I think that is a huge next step for us going forward.
Yeah, and I think bringing in some of the journalists too. There's cost-effective ways to do that where we can get stories written about small races to large races. So I think there's opportunity there for us to expand on that, even at conference. And how do you tap into these journalists and these ports to get newsworthy details on your race, or have them come out and see your race, experience your race, again, to help the overall value there. But you don't have to be a large race. You can be any size. It's just about opening up those gateways and the opportunities to the journalists and the tourism boards to work more effectively with some of our event organizers, as well as our partners.
Yeah, I think the media landscape is really important to make sure that we're adequately covering that in our conference and our education opportunities throughout the year. How is that changing? What kind of organizations are working with races? What kind of organizations are accepting content created by race organizations? Because that's a trend that we've seen a lot here in the Southeast. And how do you contact and build relationships with some of the people covering the sport on the I can't talk today. Need more coffee. The participation side and on the elite side. So I think there's some real opportunity to engage with media and to make that a part of our conference going forward.
And we picked the perfect person with you because we know you're deeply engaged in media. And that's something different with Running USA, is to have a leader that does have that forefront, that is in the sport, that is out there seeing what's happening real time, that can talk to the state of the industry and what's happening, but also to take the messaging of Running USA global. Which is something that we've been trying to work on and trying to do. And I think Jay's going to be the perfect person to do that for us, because there is a lot that we can embrace around the media side that we probably haven't even touched upon.
Yeah, and I'll take that opportunity. I left some pieces out of my bio portion of this, but I do media operations for some large events, including the Olympic trials, which are coming up here in February. And I'll get to a question about that in a second. Chicago Marathon. I'll be in New York City this weekend doing media for them. So that background, I hope will bring some benefit to Running USA, as Kathleen said. And I'm looking forward to continuing to working with many of you who are on this call on your media operations, big and small. It's a part of the sport that I truly love. And so somebody asked what my opinion is on the 12 noon start time for the U.S. Olympic marathon trials. I'm not going to give you my opinion, but I will tell you, I believe that it's going to be resolved, and it's going to be resolved in a way that's best for the athletes. There are some people behind the scenes working on this debate right now between the LOC and between USA Track and Field. All of them care deeply about the athletes and the safety of the athletes. So I think we're going to see a resolution that everybody's happy with in the next couple of days and weeks. So fingers crossed, but look for something on that soon.
Yeah, we're not going to comment on that one.
But I wanted to answer the question because we didn't say it was off the table. So, how do you envision relationships with all different sizes of events and companies? As we talked about off the top, I think that, I've been to some great races where there's only 100 people on the start line. Some of the best races I've ever run. Growing up in upstate New York, I used to do the Mountain Goat 10 miler in Syracuse, the Lilac 10K in Rochester. Boilermaker is not a small race, but I did Boilermaker every year in Utica, and I saw the Boilermakers on the call, excited to see them. Those are races that are really doing it right. That's the reason that people come back year after year after year. So these big races, especially big races who are looking to solve retention issues, have a lot to learn from the smaller events and the smaller companies. There's also runners are looking for a community. Runners are looking for something unique. And you really get that at the smaller races where you feel like you're an individual and you feel like you're being given that individual service. And big events can do that, but we've got to learn from the small events how to do it. So I think that I think the learning goes both ways. I think often we look at, okay, well, this big 60,000, 45,000 person event over here, they're going to teach us everything we need to know. But I think it works both ways, and we're going to really lean into that starting this year, but in going forward with our conference and some of our accelerator series.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that Jay and I had a lot of conversation about was Jay's bandwidth and being able to work with small events, small races from 5K to 10 miler to marathon, half marathon to marathon, all the way up. So we do have somebody here that has that expertise in not only helping to produce those events, but understands them budget-wise, financially, as well as marketing-wise, even down to small expos and putting together what does that look like if you can't afford an expo hall. So that's a lot of the things that we're going to be working on is, again, how do we take these small events to large events, but then how do you take the club to come in to be a small event to a large event and making sure that we have product and something for everyone to make their events scalable?
Yeah, and I think there's an education piece to that too. I can tell you, working at Atlanta Truck Club, we got called 2, 3, 4 times a month from people saying, I'd like to put on a 5K. How can you help me? Well, that wasn't the business model at Atlanta Truck Club, and we would do our best to guide them, but that's not what we were there for. There's not really anybody in the space teaching people how to put on an event, what it takes to get the permitting, how you get a registration platform up and running, how you plan for your t-shirt size run. So I think that there's an opportunity for Running USA to fill that void and to help encourage people who would be race directors, the future of race directors, to launch events throughout the country. And I think the more people, we all know, the more people we have running events, the more people we have running your events. So I think there's really an opportunity to help that growth and to help people understand what it takes to put on everything from a 5K to a marathon. At Atlanta Truck Club, after the Peachtree Road Race, 2 weeks later, we put on a 500-person race in a small town. And how we encourage people to sign up for that race and how we talk to those participants was very different in many ways than the ways we talk to people at Peachtree, but also there were a lot of similarities there. So we're not as different as our field size might suggest sometimes.
And let's talk a little bit about diversity, equity, and inclusion, because we know that non-binary, trans, a lot of events are trying to do that. We do want to keep moving the needle forward on that and then trying to embrace events and educate. So I know there will be some education components, but why don't you give everybody a little bit of a background there on that DEI space and you're working in that environment?
Yeah, at Atlanta Truck Club, we worked really closely with a number of outside consultants to understand how we can make sure that our races we're talking to everybody and we're open and not just open to everybody, but inviting and welcoming to everybody. I think it's a really important piece. You can have the opportunity there and say we welcome everyone, but you have to really extend the invitation. So I think that's one area we can learn. But what I've learned on the DEI conversation as a whole is that the conversation started. It really did start in earnest in 2020, many years too late, as we all know. In a lot of ways, the conversation has only started, and we've not really gone back and taken a deep dive into the learnings from those conversations. And now we're on phase 2, and we have to do that. We have to go back and look at these conversations we all had, these well-meaning conversations we all had as race organizers, as governing bodies, and say, what are the takeaways from that? And then how do we put them into play? And I think somebody has to be the voice guiding those conversations and pushing that along. So Running USA certainly can play a big role in that, but it has to be much like the topics we talked about at our conference every year. This has to be something that momentum doesn't slow down. So we need to keep that ball rolling. And I think that just getting into the learnings now is the next step.
Yeah, and I think our partnerships with USA Track and Field will also help to advance those, and people know that what are we doing? We're not only trying to educate people at conference in educational sessions that we do, but then again, we are talking to the governing bodies and making sure that we're doing a concerted effort, whether it's with data that we get from world majors or just trying to take a look at what OIC is doing, World Athletics is doing, and see how we can continue to have those dialogues and those conversations.
And what member races are doing. I mean, there are so many races that are doing this really well, and there are other races that have only scratched the surface. So really leaning into those member organizations that have not figured this out, because I don't think anybody's figured it out yet, but have made great strides here in helping educate those of us who still have a lot to learn.
Yeah. So do we have another question?
That was all the questions on the sheet. I did get questions about, got one question. Oh, here's one here. I'll grab in just a second. I got one question about how to connect with other races. I think that's I think it's a really important question and something that we really want to do here. We were talking to one of our larger member organizations this morning, And we talked about how we could take their expertise and how well they do everything and make sure that members can learn from that. So creating those opportunities for networking, a big part of who we've always been. But we're gonna double down on that going forward and make sure that if you're a member of Running USA, you have access to other members so you can learn what they're doing and get some takeaways out of that. We all want to help each other. One of the things I love about the running industry is we're not competing against each other. If somebody's doing Kathleen's Philadelphia Marathon, that's great. They're a runner. I can talk to them about coming and doing my marathon. So it's the old saying, a rising tide raises all ships. But I do think that our goal here, and I think the collective goal of a lot of our members, is to get more people running, no matter what event they're in. So that knowledge sharing is going to be very accessible for all of our members, is the hope.
Yeah, and I think our growth and expansion with some of the association partners, there's a lot of different organizations that you can go to. There's a lot of association conferences, and we want to be mindful. How do we partner? I mean, we look at Running USA is your education, its conference, and its research. And where can we utilize these partnerships that we have with other association organizations to, one, collaborate and maybe do some things cross together, whether it's at a New York Marathon reception, or whether it's in Boston, or whether it's just sharing data and some of their benefits and perks as well as ours. We know that, the areas that we do strive in is research. We're great at doing research, and how can we expand upon that? But then we also talked a lot about how do we just build our association affiliations that can benefit all of our members, but those involved on both sides, where there is some cross enhancements that go on.
Got a question here from Tracy in the chat. He mentioned some of the contract events that I do on the media side, and if I'll keep that up now that I'm here as executive director of Running USA, and how will I balance time and priorities? Kathleen and I have talked about that a lot. I do plan to keep that up, but I've done it managing the marketing and communications at Atlanta Track Club for the last several years, and been able to balance it. And I think the reason is because I love this sport. I love running. I want to spend my entire day talking about how to make running better, how to communicate running to the masses. And so I think that's going to continue. I think a lot of the people that we work with at Running USA are the people that I've worked with on the media side for years. So if anything, it's going to be able to enhance our relationship. I probably won't be taking on a lot of new races, but the ones that I've worked with for several years, I'm excited to continue working with them in that capacity, but also in the capacity here at Running USA.
Yeah, and we touched a little bit about the DEI, but I also want to bring up, the BIPOC population too. So when we talk about running, we talk about inclusivity that goes across everything, whether it's gender, race, ethnicity, ability. We are looking at everything and really trying to change the trajectory of not only conference, but the content that we put out, because we know that it's something that our members want, our partners want, but it's also a big conversation that's going on just throughout, the industry and the state of our affairs overall. So we will be also reaching out to that, because I didn't want to leave that piece out as well.
We got a question about corporate partnership world and trends for the running industry, especially in the challenging economy, from Pat. I think there are a couple of things that we need to look into as we see sponsorship deals expire and people pull out of races and new companies come in. One, I think it's really important now, and we learned this at Atlanta Track Club, to make sure we are delivering metrics and true value of the partnership to our partners. So how are we tracking what the impact of their sponsorship is, and how are we doing it in a way that makes them understand that they're actually getting an ROI on that dollar spend. But I also think it takes going out to new and perhaps outside the box partners and more of them. So it might not just be the one big sponsor going forward. It might be 5 or 6 smaller sponsors who really want to get in front of the audience we have. And so it's going to take a lot more boots on the ground. I think cold calling, knocking on doors. But I do think that really delivering that value proposition and delivering those metrics is going to be important for all of us to do going forward, whether it's a big dollar partnership or a small back of the t-shirt partnership.
Yeah, partners are critical, as well as expanding our vendor opportunities. There's a lot of different touch points that you go through, but what are those vendor opportunities, not only for the runners and for the running events, but the vendors, and how can we bring those together? Because we're always talking about partnerships for the member side, but there is some continuity there too, that we've had some large conversations on about how to make this work all around, where we are even bringing partners and vendors together in a different way to make it more valuable for the events that we have.
Some other questions here. One from Chris at the Running Diversity Coalition said we need to discuss the white power structure, wealth in the event space and supply chain, and assist with a power shift to BIPOC organizations and individuals. Can Running USA partner with us on that? Yes, I think 100%. The RIDC is doing some great work. I know that we've worked together, Chris, in the early days of the organization. I want to have that hard conversation. So let's discuss maybe even ahead of conference if that's something we can bring to this year's, because I think waiting until 2025 is too late. So I'll be sure to reach out to you in the coming days to discuss how we can make that happen. Have you given thought to how Running USA can support nonprofit organizations, specifically those who are running related? Marathon Kids, Girls on the Run, Back on My Feet. Yeah, I'm coming from the nonprofit space at Atlanta Track Club. We had a Kilometer Kids program that was a recipient of a Running USA grant. I think the grants is the first place we can start. And those are something that are ongoing. We have those each year. So I would encourage any organization on here that is doing that kind of work to apply for those grants. But also just the education piece. I know that a lot of times those organizations don't have the finances to spend on research and to spend on understanding some of the insights of the organization. So I think being a resource for those organizations is a big part of it. And I know, Kathleen, you've had some experience here and can speak a little more specifically to how we work with some of the nonprofit partners.
Yeah, and we want to make sure that we keep working with those because, again, there's a lot of events that are here. I'm in the nonprofit space, but people look at events and always think it's for profit. Example, people think Philadelphia Marathon is for profit. It's a city-produced race, but it's a non-for-profit. So we do want to have that business model there to support the nonprofits as well as the for-profits. But more and more, we see a lot of these races are nonprofit, and just trying to figure out ways to work with them. But we can definitely support them and put more content into that area of space.
All right. And as I mentioned, Running USA is a 501c3, so we deal with that every day at the finances of operating a nonprofit. Okay. So certainly something that we want to be involved in a conversation we want to have. And then a follow-up question: what is the Accelerator Series? This is a smaller series of educational events based on one topic that go around to different areas around the country or are virtual. Throughout the year. Often they come off of larger topics from the conference, but other times they're just things that are very top of mind for the industry. Try to do them on a fairly regular basis. I don't know, Kathleen, if you want to speak more to that, but that's what the Accelerator Series is right now. I think we can really grow it and do more of them throughout the year.
Yeah, and I think that's when we're looking to go into the community and to the members to see what they want, because somebody in the Northwest might not necessarily need what somebody in the Southeast needs, especially when we talk about weather, when we talk about some of the emergency planning that we're looking to do, or insurance. So there are some conversations that happen, and we really want to be mindful on how we put these programs together and how we regionalize them. And again, looking at Northwest, Southwest, Mideast, yeah, Midwest, into the Northeast and to the Southeast. So breaking that down, but then again, talking to the members and seeing what they're looking for in those areas and what the opportunities are with our resources internally, as well as some research projects. There could be some really good research projects that could come out of these Accelerator Series, but they are training, education, which is what we specialize and do best.
And that's, if there's a topic that you want to see, that you want to address, feel free to email me or to email Kathleen. Again, I'm jay@runningusa.org. We want to start that series back up again soon. So if there's anything that's on your mind right now that you want to dive into, send it my way.
Yeah, and we employ everybody to do that. If there's a thought topic, even if it's conference, something different, that's our vision moving forward, is that we want to really keep being robust. We want to be growing, expanding. Our vision is probably 2 to 3 years out, but we know we're working in the now and have to handle some of the challenge and obstacles that are faced with us today. But we are also taking a look at where we need to go in the future. And we understand that some members may grow faster than others. And then there's some that aren't sure. And we want to make sure that we can support you as well. So we do have some good vision and strategy. So if there are some things that you have, jay@runningusa.org is definitely the email to use.
Not Kathleen, sorry, just email me. Don't email Kathleen.
I'm ready to turn over the reins to that.
Any other questions from the chat, or there's no more on the sheet. I think we're good.
I think
that's
we're good.
it.
Yeah. We want to thank everybody for being here today. I know Jay is full steam ahead. We're excited to see him. We're excited to see everybody for conference this year. And again, conference is going to look a little different this year, but definitely much different as we go into 2025, 26. We're going to be looking at best practices. We have a fantastic person here that knows how to deal with members, over 30,000, that has dealt with events, hundreds and hundreds of events of all sizes, well-versed when it comes down to the media, the technology, the marketing, and different ways to engage individuals, partners, vendors for events. So I'm really excited, Jay, to have you on board.
I'm so excited to be here. I can't wait. There's so many people on this call whose names I recognize and can't wait to work with in a new capacity, and so many names I don't recognize. I can't wait to meet everybody on February 3rd or before that. I'm going to be in New York this weekend, so give me a shout if you're going to be there. Would love to meet up for a run or a coffee or both. So please feel free to reach out. We're ready to dive in and bring Running USA 2.0 to life.
Yeah, well, we look forward to seeing everybody in Florida, if not sooner. There's some great events coming up, but until then, thank you all for your time today. Really appreciate it. And welcome, Jay Holder, to ED for Running USA #5.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, take care.